Hey everybody, welcome back. Long time. I'm on the East Coast officially, and there's been a bit of lapse in my videos because of the move. I have recently picked up the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, or the Pixel 2. And I always wanted the Pixel 1 because it was just awesome, super wide. I saw it in stores, thought I gotta get this, but it was missing so many things from the Galaxy line that I need day to day that I thought I can't do it. I have gotten my hands on the Fold 6 in stores, and I have to admit it was awesome. It was significantly better than the Fold 4, better than I expected. I have to admit, lighter, solid, the form factor of that's great, but still too skinny. I can't do it. If you've never had a thin phone, great, you can live with it for a year or two. Go pick up the Fold 6. It is awesome, and software-wise, it's probably better. If you prefer simpler things, this may be better for you. If you're coming from an iPhone, this may be better for you. If you're a power user, you use it for business, tons of things, you multitask, do all kinds of functionality that's possibly not normal or average, then you'll probably want to go with the Samsung because the customization on there is impeccable. Sometimes you want to know more before you decide to buy this thing because it's very expensive. I think came out to $2,000 here in the US. The trade-in values are not comparable to Samsung. The Fold 4 was going to be $1,000 trade-in, something along those lines. The Fold 4 for Google is $400. It's a joke. I don't want to trade it in, but I really don't have anyone else to give it to. This one came out and it's almost an improvement in every single way. I don't know about the form factor yet. I have yet to open this, but it looks promising. So I'm going to do a quick unboxing, speed through it because who cares about unboxing? There are tons of videos that go over that. But from a perspective of a long-time Fold owner, someone who uses it for business, multitasking, various functionality beyond, say, social media, surfing the internet, YouTube, which are all great, but someone who wants to get into the questions of what is this missing beyond what Samsung Galaxy has. Is it worth the trade-off? I don't know. I made a list and I've slowly been going through it today, and I hope to address some of the things, and I will also do a longer review after this. But let's check it out. Let's get my first impressions because I'm super excited to open this thing, and let's just jump into it. Right off the bat, the box came to the house via FedEx, which always fails to deliver on time. But hey, it came today finally after some phone calls, and I got it. I have to say that Samsung packages their folds much better, and I'm not talking about the cool case. This is rather thin, and I'm kind of worried, but it feels solid, so I'm thinking it's going to be okay. What I'm referring to is the box that it came in was about this big, had a piece of paper on top, a piece of paper, and a little folded piece of paper on bottom, sort of like the Amazon fellow going on lunch break and saying, throw it in there. Very suspicious and kind of made me question the packaging and the care put into this. Samsung wraps theirs in this crazy thick wrap that's netted and just really thick. You could probably throw it down a hill or off a plane, it'll be okay. So I think this should be okay, but the way it comes open or unfolded in here, probably to keep the crease down when you first open it, it's hopefully padded better inside. So the box is nice. You flip it over, you pull the arrows down. They have to make it clever and modern. That allows it to slide out. The inside doesn't feel like a $2,000 device, but hey, it's minimalistic, and I believe this is all recycled. That's kind of cool. Okay, I could already tell this is edge to edge, and this is significantly wider. Wow. Okay, I've been staring at pictures of this for 2-3 months, maybe longer, in the prototype stage or the leaks, and yeah, this is significantly wider than I thought it would be based on photos. Very minimalist. This is the manual. One Type-C cable, by the way, 1 meter, so I read on Google, and USB 2.0, so probably for charging only. All right, let's peel this off. Wow. It is dramatically bigger than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be a little wider, but yeah, that's awesome, and it is crazy thin. If you're coming from a Fold 4 or anything prior to that, maybe even a Fold 5, this is going to be a significant leap forward in hardware build or just the structure. Wow. That is awesome. There is nearly no crease right now. The hinge is stiffer than my Fold 4. So I'm comparing the Fold 4 because it's what I have, but The weight of this is supposed to be very similar to the Fold 4. I think they're very close. And the Fold 6 is lighter by 15 or 18 grams or something, but this feels lighter and more solid. It's hard to explain. Maybe it's because it's thinner and the frame is different. So my frame is gloss on the Fold 4, which I loathe. I just can't stand gloss. This back bar here, which is all aluminum, is gloss as well. Not my favorite thing, but it's so small. It's not bad. It's also not branded. The Samsung ones are always branded, which I don't mind, but it would have been cool to see a G there or something. Cost, right? Cost. So the back is very clean. It supposedly has a fingerprint, anti-fingerprint coating. It seems to be working because I feel like my fingerprints would be on here already. So that coating does seem to work. The camera bump, right? Of course, the trend is love to hate, right? Most people just, and change, averse to change, I get it. But the camera bump, I think this looks better. Maybe it's an iPhone copy, maybe not. Maybe everything copies each other. I don't know, but I appreciate it. I think this looks really good. So I think it actually looks better than the bar across the rest of the Pixel line. Yes, it does not tilt. So I was worried it was going to do this the entire time, and that bothers me. So that's good. My Fold has the bar right here, so it constantly sits crooked. So this sits perfectly flat, it's perfectly straight, which is awesome. It's just so good. It's so thin. It's basically a regular phone. I have my S24 Ultra. It's just about the same width. Granted, this has the bezel. And it's almost the same height and depth. Almost. That's just insane. And that's probably the thickest part of the phone. It's so close. This phone is impossibly thin. I know there's a thinner one, a foreign one. This is the thinnest one in the US, which is great, but wow. So glad I dumped money on this. Okay, let's check it out. I got the matte black. I like the white, but I've gotten this silver one here in the S24 and I'm already tired of it. White is cool, but I read that the contrast color on the outside edges is not silver, it's more of a champagne. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure it looks good, but I think I'd get tired of that quickly. The black is pretty neutral. You can put a case on it and it matches any case. You can put a skin on this one so it could be white potentially. And really, I'm going to use the phone bare anyhow and just put a glass screen protector on here. So I'm rather excited over that. The power button and the volume buttons. So if you're a Samsung user, these are swapped. The volume button's below where it's on top on Samsung phones, and the power button's above on Google phones where it's below on Samsung phones. Here's a Fold 4, and oh my goodness, it's so much thinner. And it doesn't have a gap. If anyone's wondering, zero gap. And there's a sort of a liner there too to protect from dust. Granted, I've never even had dust or any problems with this large gap in here that you can see through, and you would think stuff would get stuck. It does not. So I take very good care of my things, but I almost never used cases on any of my folds. Sometimes I use a rear one only, never use the front one. So I use glass screen protectors though, and I've probably cracked a handful of those. The only thing I've ever had in the Fold line ever fail was the inside screen protector. And I've been trying to find if this has a built-in inside screen protector. I believe this is a Samsung screen, and I think it's Samsung's MO to use an inside screen protector. So I'm going to get back to you with the for sure on that. It feels like the exact same thing in here, which I was worried about. It's ultra thin glass, and it feels like this. I like that it's smooth and sort of, this one's a little stickier, I suppose, but you can't run your fingernail in it. It doesn't feel like plastic. The very first Fold felt a bit plasticky, I think. I'm going to have to look with a flashlight, but if I look on the edges here, it's possible I could see a screen protector on here. It's really hard to tell. This may not have an inside screen protector. If you look at the Fold line, I should look at the 6. You can see it goes to the edge, but you can still see it. That's so places like iFix can replace it. And they replaced this one too when it started to lift right before the year mark. So Samsung gives you a free screen replacement within a year. That's awesome. I don't think Google does that, and I've heard not so great things about Google's support service, but I can't vouch for that and I can't verify that. So being hesitant and being a little prepared, I got the $15 plan per month. I don't know how long I'll keep that, at least 6 months, probably, maybe a year. The bottom part of the Type-C is almost as thick as the side itself. Has 3 microphones. I see 1, 2 on bottom possibly and 1 on top. All right, so let's turn this thing on. Ah, the power button's on top. That's gonna take a lot of getting used to. I've been using the power button on the bottom for a long time. Now the power button should be the capacitive fingerprint sensor. This one's sort of indented and makes it easier to press. Both of these buttons protrude, and I don't know how used to that I will be. Welcome to your Pixel. I've never had a Pixel. I've used quite a few here and there, but I've never had my own. All right, let me set this up and I will get back. I've set this up. It's taken me about 10 minutes. I skimmed through things. I passed a lot. It's quite a bit different than Samsung. So if you've never had a Pixel like me, this will be a bit of a change. It's vanilla Android. It's basic, but a lot of things are different. I have to say it's really smooth. I'm enjoying that. Things are quite different. It is very reminiscent of iPhone, I think. Not the same, but it just, some stuff hints towards it. Granted, I have to use this and get to know it better. It was really cool. They had a barcode, a QR code at the beginning, and you just scanned it, and it picked up my Samsung device and allowed me to transfer nearly everything like that. All my Google accounts, everything transferred in a minute. So that's quite nice. I have yet to explore this. Right off the bat, you get the gesture navigation. Now, I'm sort of an early adopter. I try things. I like change. Gesture navigation is okay with me, but I'd rather have the solid navigation there. So I went and instantly changed that to the 3-button. And the 3-button navigation is reversed from what I'm used to. Last time I had this was 10 years ago on a Motorola V20 or something. So I'm trying desperately to get the back button over here closer to my thumb because I use that a lot more. Intuition should have Google developers say, that's an option. Samsung's had it for many, many years. This is one of the huge things that Samsung has over Google. No, not the navigation bar, but the customization options. You can go into settings and swap this around without even using GoodLock. However, you can download GoodLock, all the modules inside GoodLock, and change everything to your desire. So there are lots of things that you can do on Samsung that's just significantly better. Yes, I can use a custom launcher. It may resort to that. I want to try using vanilla Android for a while and test it and see what I like, see what I don't like. This is going to take a week at least. So for someone who's never used a Pixel habitually or day to day, I'm going to get used to this before I judge it. So I'm kind of excited to see all the cool things it has. I know Google has some awesome stuff that Samsung does not have. I know that the spam protection on the phone calls is a big one that people love, so I have yet to see that. Granted, I have Google Voice accounts from my old numbers and seem to get endless spam calls, even though I hardly use those numbers. So I guess we'll see. It has an inner bezel too. So it has this outer bezel you see when the screen's off, but there's a black sort of ring around here, maybe a millimeter or two. So you lose that part of the screen. So it's not as wide as it first looks to be, but it's very wide. By the way, the fingerprint sensor is very quick. I'm getting used to it. It's higher than usual. It'll take a while, but it's very quick. It's nice. The S24 Ultra screen is still quite a bit wider. Actually, no, I take that back. So the left side, to me, your right side, is lined up. And wow, that's a minimal difference. The S24 is taller. It doesn't have the curved edges, but it's pretty close. Considering this is a very large phone screen, this is pretty awesome. A lot of people were complaining about the curves. I appreciate the curves. I don't really care about the corners. It doesn't look aesthetically as awesome as the Galaxy line or the Fold 6. Looks really refined, perfectly symmetrical, looks great. But right now I'm going to take function over form, and this still looks really good to me. The only thing I'm really not a huge fan of is the bezel on the side, but the black one blends in and it's really hard to tell. I'm cool with that. And the rounded corners, let me tell you, I've been using this again recently, and the corners dig into my hand non-stop. I just can't stand it. I can't stand it. So I thought, man, no way am I upgrading to the Fold 6 because it's even boxier now. I've had Notes forever too, back when Notes existed. Those were boxy by nature, and yeah, I'm gonna like this round corner. Granted, I tend to do this, but even this edge right here, it looks square, but it's hard to explain. It's quite rounded. Definitely more rounded than this. This pokes into my skin, so that's a nice feature. I'm gonna go over the specs in a full review You've seen the specs anyhow, but I'm going to talk about my thoughts on each one and sort of how they integrate into what I need to do or more particular things. But I have some thoughts that I wrote down, and I kind of want to see where this goes with that. So one of the big ones for me was the Alt DP out mode. Samsung has DeX. If you don't know what that is, it's sort of a mock desktop. In fact, it's like a full-blown desktop experience like using Windows now. It's quite good. I've been using it since inception, which has been a long time now. I have Nreal, they're now Xreal, glasses. These are AR glasses. And this is one of the reasons I was worried about trading this phone for this phone, because I thought, okay, this won't do Alt DP out. However, it seems in Android 15 beta, people are referencing desktop mode in developer options. I'm going to check that out to enable that. But just testing right off the bat, I'm going to plug in a cable and see if this happens to output any signal at all. Let's just see. There's a function to mirror the display. So it mirrors the display, but it's vertical. I pressed full screen and it went blank. That's unfortunate. So what happens is that it shows for a second and then it cuts off. What I'm assuming is happening is a power delivery issue. I don't think it's delivering enough power. I do have an external charger to test that theory later, but I will update on the longer term video. The good news is that it is outputting signal to this. You can only mirror your display, but that's okay. The problem with that is that your phone's going to be running too, so you're already going to be draining your battery pretty heavily powering this, and your screen's going to be on. So, and this isn't a Snapdragon, it's a Tensor. I don't think it's built the same, and I don't think it's as powerful. I know it's not as powerful, but real world use will determine if it compares. Another thing that isn't mentioned a lot, but I have looked for, is the storage, the version of storage, if you will. It's UFS 4.0 that comes in most of the Galaxy line. I don't think the 4 has it, but I think the 5 and 6 have it. The S series has had it since the 23. This is UFS 3.1. Slower speed storage. It probably doesn't make a big difference for people, and again, real world use won't make a difference, but I struggle when I'm downloading 500, 300 gigabytes of photos backing up a phone on a computer. If you know that experience, it lags and freezes when you have thousands of photos. So yes, some people have that many photos, and that is why they want bigger storage. So that's unfortunate. That one isn't online for the specs, but I did verify that. Let's talk about the really big problems that have been facing Pixels for quite a while. One is the modem. So the new modem in the G4 chip in the Pixel line and the Pro line is going to be the Exynos-based 5400, I believe. So the old one is the 5300, and this one is significantly better in several ways, at least power delivery, or should I say speed, but we don't know the efficiency. We don't know if the heat's gonna still cause issues and throttle it or whatever, and signal drop. For whatever technical reasons, there's more to it, I know. We're hoping that this will solve the connectivity issue that's been apparent for a long time. Some people have no issues. You probably live right next to a cell tower. So this one should improve that, and that is also why I jumped on this. I thought, all right, the modem's better at least, even if the Tensor G4 isn't even comparable to the Snapdragon Gen 3s. So Gen 2.3s, wow, I'm tired. But the Snapdragons that have been in the Galaxy line for quite a while. So that is one plus with this. Another thing that I was worried about, which I will have to dig into a little more, is the secure folder. Samsungs have a secure folder. I think that's an awesome feature. Not for negative sort of impact, but I use it to separate OSs because I have basically two different businesses and work on separate accounts, and I don't want them having anything to do with personal. So I keep my personal account on the main profile, so to speak, and then the secure folder has a work account, number one, with different versions of apps. It's sort of like dual app. You can have dual WhatsApp Messenger, although that's a feature now built into Samsung. I don't know if Google has that. Maybe that's an Android feature. Little tangent there. But there's also work profile. Now, work profile is disabled in the Samsung phone for some reason, so you have to download this special third-party thing and enable it. I did that, so I have a work profile, a secure profile, and the regular profile. 3 separate things, 3 separate sort of business. Well, 2 business work ones and 1 personal. I really like that. I'm so used to it. I need it. I also run different homes, have different security cameras. That really helps. If you have different smart homes, that one really helps. So there are various reasons for doing this. This has work profile. I know that, so I can at least do one. I don't know if having separate profiles in general on Google will work, but I believe that will be the solution. If not, there may be third-party apps. I have to dig into that. I was looking for USI support, which will enable better stylus support. This doesn't have it, as far as I know, or have been looking into it. So you can use the basic rubber stylus on this, that's it. The S Pen, right, the one built into the S24, similar ones work on the interior of the Fold line, not the exterior, not even on the Fold 6. That was another pitfall of Samsung. Samsung really just slightly upgraded and thought we could pull one more year out. Marketing said, we're going to get one more year out of people to upgrade from the Fold 4. I'm one of those people, and I was this close to doing it, but no, I think a lot of people jumped ship this year. Samsung, you failed on that one. It's too bad because you have the better software. But right now, yeah, this is, even not intuitively knowing what the hell I'm doing on this, it's so much better. So another thing I read somewhere random is that there's a rattle. It's on every phone. That is the optical stabilization in the camera lens. It's not a big deal unless you have OCD or something. It's that's to the extreme, I should say. Everyone's got a little OCD, but not a big deal. So keep that in mind. It may rattle. The heat was a huge one, so I have yet to feel that, but the Fold 4 gets really hot sometimes, especially in the sun, sometimes when it's charging, sometimes when I'm doing certain things. So I'm used to the phone heating up. I know the tensor chips get really hot, so I guess we'll see what happens with that. And played by ear. Hopefully the Tensor G4, which I believe removed a core and swapped another core, changed the size, overclocked some stuff. They basically shuffled it around and removed parts, overclocked to compensate for it, something along those lines. But from what I'm seeing in actual use, it's doing better, it's more efficient, and it's not throttling as much. So for battery life and for use, and hopefully indirectly on the modem and other components, etc., it's looking like it's going to do better, but again, I have to test that theory in the long run. Does this have wireless charging? This does. Yes, it has wireless charging. It's only 7.5 watts. That is slow. I thought 10 watts, maybe this is 15. I thought 10 watts is slow. This thing takes hours to charge wirelessly on a 10 watt charger. Super slow. 7.5 watts. I don't know if I'm ever going to use that. I'm happy to have it though. This one has reverse power share, and while it's a feature I don't use that much, it's awesome to have because sometimes I forget my watch charger when I'm traveling, and in a hotel for a couple of days, you just pop your watch on the back of this while this is charging. The other really big problem I was reading about on the Fold 1 was the screen brightness. I guess it was labeled at 1300 nits, something around there, right? Something acceptable, but in real world use, no way was that getting anywhere near there. It was so dim, people could not use it outside. I saw one in the store and I was playing with it. It's hard to see indoors, but if you had the bright lights shining on you, you can tell it's not very bright, both in and out. This one is double, triple. It's 2700 nits peak and 1500 actual nits. I think that rating's much closer to accurate now. So it's significantly brighter. People are having a great time. First impressions, I gotta say the speakers are much better sounding than I thought they would be. YouTube usually inhibits sound, sort of degrades it a little bit or lowers it. That was quite clear. Let me try Spotify. I'm really struggling with the multitask button over here and the power button below. I'm really struggling with that. It's gonna take a while. I'm not mad, I'm just struggling. Pretty relaxed. I'm too happy over the screen size. It's great. All right, let's just try a song here. I gotta test that a little further. The Pixel 9 Pro Fold is actually getting louder than the Fold 4, and the Fold 4 speakers were quite good in my opinion. I don't know if this is correct, but what I'm noticing is that the top speaker on the Pixel feels like it's exactly equivalent to the bottom one, almost like they're the same speaker, whereas the Fold is, I think, less of a speaker on top. It's more for phone calls. You can see the slit right there. There are vents on top and bottom where it looks like it's equal, but for some reason I never got the same equivalence, but it could just be me. I don't know. The Pixel feels fuller a little bit. Granted, there's not a whole lot of bass, but at least you can hear the bass notes. They're not invisible. And it gets louder. So they're both not hollow or anything, but I got to say that I'm impressed with the speakers. So that was one thing I was worried about. Not a huge one on my list, but I was worried. They're quite good. So that's a win for the Pixel. That's better than I thought. The camera's going to have a bunch more functions I got to play with. Google has some cool stuff. I know they have the inject the person who's not there, so you can take photos of each other. That's kind of cool. There's the best face one, which I've heard about. Even the night shot is different on the Fold. Let's shoot the same picture with the S24 and see. Wow, the S24's night photo went much quicker. The Pixel's night function actually counted down 2 seconds. The S24 Ultra did not. but this photo looks better on the Pixel. I still don't think that means anything. I definitely need more testing. And actually, I'm not as concerned about the photos because the algorithms are quite good. I'm concerned about the video. What's funny is that the camera is pretty different on this and this, even though they're both running the same version of Android. This doesn't have 4K 120. This does. Probably the processor can handle it. This has 4K 60 at least. The volume, the toggles, the brightness toggle and everything on the Pixel is really cool. It's much more modern than this. So Samsung's One UI, it is a little smoother, I have to admit. It's hard to say because everything's so smooth nowadays, but something about this is a little smoother. The animations, I don't know, it's just a tiny bit better. The video looks pretty good, and this room isn't that bright, so not too bad. I got to play with that more too, but that's pretty awesome. Even though the sensors aren't great, I think the main sensor on the Fold 6 is still better, which is the same sensor that's on the Fold 4. Yeah, they've had the same sensor since the Fold 4. So the cameras on this are the same as the Fold 6. I think all of them, but at least the main. Anyhow, the sensors are actually better, but the optics behind this, the glass, may be better. I mean, look how thick this is. And the software is going to be better at processing. The speed at capturing things while moving, I know this does a much better job at that, so I'm excited for that. I've never had that issue. I haven't, well, tried to capture the dog running by many times, so I have had that issue, but we'll see how that fares with this. The big one, though, was the 5x optical. You can zoom on everything, but digital zoom just degrades. All it's doing is cropping in, and it's just blurry mess. But optical is lossless. The Fold 4 has 3x optical. I think they've all had that for quite some time. This has 5x optical. I was excited about that. The S24 Ultra has downgraded to a 5x optical as well. And to get that space zoom 100 times, they're just compensating with resolution now because the sensor, I think, is 50 megapixels. But megapixels don't mean everything. I know that's a marketing tactic, but they don't mean everything. A couple of things I just want to mention because people mention it and they complain. The huge debate over time has been having a camera in the screen. This has a punch hole camera on top and a punch hole camera here. I have to say that I don't care. I prefer function over form in that aspect. I like a good looking phone. It does sell me. I want something that looks great. The Fold 6 looks great, but for a punch hole camera, I'd rather have one that works really well and is useful than have one under the screen. The under the screen one in the Fold 4, you can still see it's there. It's got little tiny RGB dots you can see, and the camera's terrible. So there's a trade-off there, and I guess you're fully immersed in the screen if that's what you need. I don't care. So I'm very content with having it up here in the corner. In fact, you don't even notice it. It's almost better than having it in the middle, and it kind of just blends in with the icons for me anyhow. So having the hole punch cameras is fine. In order to get this thing this thin, the battery has shrunk 100 or 200 milliamp hours, something like that. So it's actually smaller than the Fold 1. It's lighter. I much prefer the lighter phone because the Fold 1 was heavy. And it's still bigger than the Fold 6 and the Fold 4, etc. I think those batteries haven't changed in a long time. So I have read, I don't know how true this is, that this is getting 3 hours over the Fold 6 in testing, which actual testing, watching videos or something default settings, neutral. I don't know if it had mobile data, etc. But mobile data with the modem might be an issue, but we'll see. That is pretty cool, which means this is comparable to a regular phone. This gets great battery life. This, not so much. The battery life on this is looking promising. I know it's coming. I know everyone wants to hear it. The crease is a popular topic of discussion. I personally just don't care. I don't care about the crease. It's never bothered me. I don't look for it. If I see it, it doesn't bother me. Sometimes it's fun just to rub your finger over it for entertainment, but really it doesn't do anything unless you're looking for it. When you're looking directly at the phone, you just see the screen, you just see the lights. If the screen's off, you still barely see it, but you have to be looking at an angle. This one's really minimal. Some people theorize that the crease gets larger over time, which is possible. That's potentially why they leave the phone flat when they ship it. I haven't noticed it getting bigger, but I haven't really looked for it. It is shallower than the Z Fold 4, and I've read from other people's responses that it's shallower than the Z Fold 6 if it's something that really bothers you. I know the foreign phones, they have probably the shallowest crease possible, but it's a folding phone, so to me it doesn't bother me whatsoever, and when the screen's on you don't see it. So I just thought I'd mention that. But it is there. less prominent than I expected. One other thing is that this comes with the cable and no phones come with the bricks anymore, which is silly, but it's listing compatible with the 45-watt charger on Google's spec sheet for this phone. Don't let that fool you. This only charges 21 watts, and I don't even think people are getting that. I have a tester. I'm going to test a couple of chargers. I have several 45-watt chargers just to see if this gets anything over, but I don't think people are even getting 21 watts. So don't waste your money getting the 45-watt or anything like that. Just use the regular brick. It should be fast enough. I would prefer faster charging, of course, for those few times that you need something in a rush, but for most people, 21 watts will be fast enough. It's not that slow. Yes, I wish it were better, but I will take battery integrity and longevity of the battery over fast speeds, which is what you're probably trading off. Another nice thing is that for the past year or two, they've been offering 6-7 year OS upgrades, security patches, and Google's Pixel Drop, which I think is feature updates for the new stuff. Who keeps their phone for 7 years? Some people. My mom does. Hey, mom. And so some people do. Granted, the new line of phones are all so close in hardware and software and specs that we should start keeping our phones longer as long as they hold out, because they're really smaller and smaller jump forward every time they upgrade, right? So 7 years is pretty cool. Potentially this could last 7 years if you don't break the screen inside or if it lasts that long, but that's a nice feature to have, and at least you know that it's going to be supported for quite a while. No MST, but NFC. Wi-Fi 7, which is cool. A little future-proof, I suppose. Bluetooth 5.3, which is great. Has 2 antennas in here, so they say, which is cool. My Legion Go gaming device has 2 Bluetooth antennas, one for the controllers, one for headphones, so you can keep those signals separate and get the better distance, better connectivity. Great also for speed when you're trying to have quicker reactions. Milliseconds count, I guess, in first-person shooter games, so things like that, but this apparently has 2 Bluetooth antennas. This does have ultra wideband, so you can use that for car keys, smart homes, smart tags. That's a big one. So ultra wideband will let you use the full functionality of the newer smart tags, I think, where you can track it with the camera and you can find it in your house. So that's a nice feature. I wasn't sure if this was going to have it. It does. Another cool thing is it does have satellite. So emergency connectivity, you can contact via satellite, which is awesome. I've seen some articles in the past where people get lost hiking miles and miles out. So that's kind of a cool feature. Not that I hope to need it ever, but I'm glad it's there and we're moving along to better things. Another thing I needed was dual SIM. It has 1 nano slot. I still use a physical SIM most of the time because I like to swap phones quick, then go deal with eSIM online. It has an eSIM as well, which is great. I travel Europe a lot, and only one phone company last year actually offered a prepaid eSIM. I think it was Orange or EE. So hopefully more adopt that feature. At that point, you can just transfer your US SIM card to eSIM and then go over there and get a nano physical SIM. So it's great to have both of those. Definitely a plus, definitely needed for me. Wow, unfolding it is nice. So I was a little worried that how thin it was going to feel. It feels solid and it clicks in. Yeah. And it folds flat. That was something I was worried about too. This one, over time, I think, stopped folding flat. And you can bend it out, but wow. It's been, what, an hour with this? This thing just feels so tiny now. It's crazy. From the Fold 4, that is a big difference. Not only does it not fold flat, but that is a huge difference that you can see. Wow. So the 8-inch versus the 7.6, the aspect ratio is a little different, but that makes a huge difference. That's nearly an inch wider. The 8-inch screen is definitely better. It's quite a bit wider than the Fold 4 inside screen. Amazing. So the 8-inch, I didn't think a couple of decimal points were going to make a big difference, but it did. So I really appreciate that. The form factor, I really did like the Passport form factor. I know a lot of people say that and they're diehard for it, but this is still wide enough and now just slightly taller. It still feels short. Is it pocketable? That is one thing. Well, if you look at the S24, it's smaller in every dimension and it's just about as thin. With the camera bump, it's so damn close. It's amazing. And because the corners are rounded, yeah, it fits in your pocket fine. Probably can't see my pocket, but it's not that big at all. It's a large phone, but it's still small. This is the closest thing I've ever felt to having a tablet in your pocket and then a normal phone. So cool. The back, it's not as slippery. So I put a clear skin on this, which cost an arm and a leg. I don't know why, in order to put this ring on here, but it kind of added some grip. This one I had to add skin and it's still slippery. This is less slippery than this grip here. So this definitely has some, I don't know if it's the anti-fingerprint coating, but it's a little grippier. And this just fits in my hand better. I feel like I'm not going to drop this. Maybe it's because it's thinner. See, these are the same weight. I want to say they're just so close by a gram or two. But this one feels lighter. I don't know why. And it feels better. It's less bulky too. People who like the thin profile factor, it feels the same. You can still one-hand this, no problem. It's slightly smaller than the S24 Ultra, which is a little more difficult to one-hand swipe, but still not impossible. But this one is right in the middle, right in the middle. So I think it's perfect. Yep, and all the AI features here, that was pretty much Samsung's go-to for the last 2 years. So everything about this Unpacked event was AI. People, if you're like me, we just don't care anymore. In fact, hearing the word AI makes me not want to buy the phone. It's becoming a pet peeve. So I don't care about AI. I do like some of the features. I think some are really cool. The translate on the fly through the phone call is awesome. I need some friends that speak different languages solely so I can call them and say, hey, speak that language. But, all that stuff is great, but it's really niche and I don't use it ever. I want it. It's great that it's there, but it's not a selling point. The selling point was the hardware, right? So having the wider screen, the camera differences, and all the other things that this has over this, or the Fold 6, that was a selling point. And I think that's Samsung's big mistake on this one. I guarantee you, I'll put money on it that the Fold 7 is closer to this or significantly different than the Fold 6. I'll put money on that one, but we'll see. Then maybe I'll go back to Samsung, but we'll see how I end up liking this. Another hot topic I'll mention, since I spent a little more time with this phone, I spent an extra day with it, and I'm going to throw this stuff into the review as well, or the first impression, I should say. The longer review is coming. Galaxy Buds 3. I should do a separate review on these. I bought them because of the lights. I thought it was cool and the call quality, but I'll talk about that later. Anyways, I have a bunch of these, all iterations, I think, and these paired right up to the Google phone. To my surprise, I opened the Wear app, it scanned, it wouldn't find it instantly. When it found it, it wouldn't connect. All I ended up doing was going into the Bluetooth settings, connecting to these, connected like that, and then it showed up in the Wear app. Very interesting. The one thing I was worried about, my favorite thing on this, is the voice command saying next song, pause music, etc. It worked and it was very quick and smooth. So all the functionality of these is working with the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Yes. So everything works with that. The other thing is the watch. So this is a Galaxy Watch 6. I think I have most of these as well. I don't have the 7. Is there 8 right now? I don't even know. They all start to look the same. But the Galaxy 6, quite happy with. It transferred. It didn't do the reset thing. It still did the transfer thing, which I thought was a Samsung only benefit. So I paired it via Bluetooth again. No, sorry, this one I didn't pair via Bluetooth. This one I actually got the Wear app to scan it. It took 2 or 3 times for it to finally connect. Really quick though, and when it connected, it just transferred over, gave me a code, done. So it's already paired and transferred. I believe everything works, and I love Samsung Health. I use it all the time. I think the only thing that won't work with this is the heart readings, which I believe you have to install some sort of third-party software. I was looking into it a long time back. I will drop that in the full review as well if you care to know about that. But I am definitely invested in the Samsung ecosystem. I really love Samsung Health. I have all the watches, the earbuds, and so it's good to know that this stuff is working seamlessly so far, and all the functionality that I use is there. There are many things I've been taking note of, which I'll mention later in the long review. Many little things I'm sure other people won't mention because they're not going to catch it, but a person who's customized Samsung and uses different launchers is going to notice this. A lot of stuff is missing. I have to say that. There are a lot of things on here that are missing, just basic quality of life things on the Pixel OS that are really bothering me. Not a deal breaker yet. One last thing is that I put a screen protector on it today on the update, and I'll link this, but pretty much every screen protector I found that is shipping quick enough to get here in a couple of days, not a couple of weeks, is this shrunken down version to fit the case around it. Normally I don't mind, but this is such a large variation and difference that I find it interfering with things. and I don't like it. So I'm not going to use a case. I never have, for the front especially, but I'm going to try to find one that's edge to edge. If anyone has a recommendation or got lucky and bought one off Amazon early on and it happened to be edge to edge, please drop that in the comments to share with everybody. However, if you have a case, which is understandable because this is a ridiculously expensive device, and I would imagine most people have cases, they're not weirdos like me, then this screen protector is great because it will fit the case right around it, no problem, and it seems pretty solid. The touch, I haven't even turned on the touch, the increase in sensitivity, and this is working very well. So I'm pretty surprised about that. One other thing I've noticed right from the start is that when I pick this thing up, it constantly turns on. This phone turns on more than any other device I have ever had. It's starting to get on my nerves. I'm pretty sure there's a setting. Well, I shouldn't hold my breath because there's so many settings I thought there would be and they're not there. Very minimal, but there's got to be a setting or something that stops this, because sometimes I shake it, it seems to turn on, but I guess maybe what's happening is I'm just brushing the screen. You can double tap the screen, which is a typical thing, but it seems far more sensitive. I think what's happening is I'm touching the fingerprint button or something. Also, the battery life has been really good in the one day I've used it. I've been overworking this thing setting it up. The only time the battery significantly plummeted was when I did the transfer to transfer, where it transferred, I want to say 100, 200 gigabytes worth of stuff back and forth. That dropped the battery 20%. But other than that, this thing hovered in good battery range all day. In fact, it barely moved most of the time. I did notice that it charged relatively slow when it was warmer. It wasn't extremely hot, but when these two were transferring, this one was less hot than this. So the Fold was less hot. This wasn't hot, but it was pretty warm, and that definitely slowed the charging. So I guess we'll see what happens, but the charging definitely has an effect with the heat, as so far from my experience. So that's everything I can think of. My first impression. This is sort of an ad hoc video, and hopefully that helped you out. Maybe that provided some info if you're a little on edge and you just want to get into this right now. I am going to do a slightly longer review once I feel comfortable enough to address the things and provide proper judgment. I'm going to do that, so maybe 1 to 2 weeks. If you have anything you want to know, please drop a comment. I will do my best to answer it, or throw it in the next video if it's a viable thing. I plan on doing things that are a little more niche, a little outside of the scope of normal use, definitely different than regular reviews. I'm more about experience and hands-on use of things in real-world scenarios than specs and benchmarks, and this is better than this on paper. So I really care about what actually is going to happen when you use it and what instances you're using it in. So I want to report on that, and hopefully that gives you an idea of what to look for if you get this in the future, because Black Friday is coming, right? So probably drop again. Hopefully it will have better trade-in prices than Google's offering now. All of that being said, welcome back everybody else. It's good to see you here. Welcome all the new people. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe for more. I really hope this helped you out and you had as much fun looking at this as I did. I will put some better photos, and I will do a lot more in the near future. Again, drop a comment. I will see you on the next video. Have a great night. Have a great day, wherever you are in the world. Take care.